Up until now, we have been discussing culture by itself and American deaf culture. Now we are going to shift our discussion into a broader discussion on disability and culture. To begin, we will discuss 3 historical treatments of deaf people. Then we will discuss what disability means in the United States. A.Nd 3 important laws meant to protect disabled people. When we discuss disability, we need to recognize the history of disability and the harsh realities of what happened. Several religions in history have perceived disability as a result of sin, according to their religious texts. Each religion varies in their perspective of disability and treatment of disabled people, but we need to acknowledge 2 things. 1. Religion, in general, has not had a positive perspective of disability. 2. Some religions played a vital role in the creation of sign languages and the education of the deaf. Another reality we need to recognize is the treatment of disabled people by society. There are records of ancient civilizations, and now Europe, that share stories of disabled infants being dropped from balconies and disabled people being abandoned. There are also records of disabled people who survived into adulthood and had to beg for money and food to survive. Lastly, we need to remember Nazi Germany's eugenics plan included disabled people. Nazis forced sterilization of disabled people as an attempt to breed out disability. Hopefully, our discussions from earlier about the causes of deafness remind you how complicated deafness is, and remember that is true for all disabilities. So what is disability? How do we define a person who is disabled? Well, the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990 created a clear definition. To be considered disabled, a person must have an impairment that interferes with a major life activity. It is the last part, interferes with a major life activity, that is often cited and discussed when determining a person's disability. Is there something different about this person that prevents the person from accessing a part of life other people can? For example, deafness interferes with a person's ability to receive information produced by sound. Therefore, deafness is a disability because life, as we currently know it, focuses on auditory communication. This definition also allows for an infinite number of realities to be considered a disability, including those that are not visible to others. The Americans with Disabilities Act is just one law that was passed by the United States government. 2 earlier laws included the Rehabilitation Act and the Individuals with Disabilities Act. The Rehabilitation Act declared that government agencies cannot discriminate against disabled people in services or employment. Before this act, the government could deny services or employment to a person because they were disabled. It is important to note that this act focused on government agencies, not public businesses. IDEA, or the Individuals with Disabilities Act, required disabled children to be provided access to a free and appropriate public education. This requires schools that receive federal money to allow disabled children to attend. Private schools, religious institutions, and other education systems that do not receive federal funds do not need to provide disabled children with education. Finally, ADA. This expanded the legal protections for disabled people. Specifically, reasonable accommodations must be provided for disabled people in terms of employment, transportation, telecommunications, and public accommodations. A big discussion about this law is about the phrase reasonable accommodations and what that means. Reasonable accommodations cannot put a burden on the business or on the person, therefore, there are situations in which a reasonable accommodation is not enough. For example, a deaf person goes to a drive-thru to order food. Reasonable accommodation needs to be provided because the deaf person needs to be given access to the same facilities hearing people can access. Therefore, many drive-thrus have screens, people outside taking orders, or have a process where the deaf person drives up to the window to order. Although these are all accommodations, they are not the best accommodation that could be provided. The point is, ADA does require agencies and businesses to provide accommodations, but the term reasonable can be used as a scapegoat to provide services that do not meet the needs of the disabled person. The COVID-19 pandemic saw many non-disabled people trying to use ADA to their advantage, with various results. For example, people use it in an attempt not to wear a mask, saying they had a medical reason, and using ADA as their protection to shop without one. However, ADA does not protect people in this type of situation. ADA would require the store to provide a reasonable accommodation to the person who cannot wear a mask. If the accommodation would be too much of a financial burden to the store or company, then the person would have no legal groundwork. In some instances, companies and stores offer drive-up services. This would be a reasonable accommodation as the person can still access the store and get what they need.